Hello and welcome to everyone watching with the name Gonzalo. Hello and welcome to everyone else as well. This is another episode of r/ProRevenge. Before we jump into it though, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice. And before I tell you a story, I would very much appreciate it if you could just hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. Depth from the grave. A story of money. My grandma told me this story recently about how her brother got his ass kicked from the grave. Sorry for the bad English, I do not write it very well and I have dyslexia, so sorry if I butch the text. So, in this scenario, my grandma comes from a family of 4 girls and 1 boy. My great-grandfather Hank was ecstatic with the boy. We'll call him Jack. One more important thing is that my great-grandfather ran a very successful company that made high-end clothing and bathroom silks / towels and bathrobes. He made a fortune with his company and made sure everyone who worked for the company got his fair share. He also looked after the family. All his children got an education. All his children got the chance to get their driver's license. It was in the 1960s, so it was a big deal back then. They were the first in my hometown with a car, radio, and TV. My great-grandfather treated everyone equal. That changed when his first and only son was born. He already had 4 girls and now finally a son. The roadmap was laid out for him. He would be the heir to the company. So began the upbringing of Jack. Let's say he was a kid with a mouth. This wasn't bad per se. The thing was that his father allowed it. Jack got kicked from his first school. Jack got caught shoplifting. Jack got kicked from his second school. Jack got caught joyriding, and so on and so on. Hank did not sit Jack down and tell him the severity of his actions. Rather, he would shrug it off and tell his wife, great-grandmother, Anna, that they were just childhood quirks. Anna tried to make something out of Jack, but it was a lost cause. Jack became 18, and Hank decided that it was the time to introduce him to the company. The company did better than ever, and the whole family was involved. Jack began at the bottom of the ladder and had to work his way up. This is where Jack began to shine. With shine, my grandmother meant that her brother was not a bright light at school, but he was a hard worker and had a nose for business. Not so much for people. Jack was being an ass as per usual and got married to his first Karen. His first wife was a Karen. She wanted to start her own company, and her father-in-law, Hank, wanted to retire. She pushed Jack to take over quickly and push the rest of the family out. Jack listened to her and talked his father about how he was ready and how his sisters and their husbands were tearing the company apart if they would stay in their leadership roles. The thing was that only 1 daughter and son-in-law were involved in the company at this point. My grandmother oversaw the seamstress and the quality department. My grandfather oversaw the financial and the suppliers. Karen wanted full control and started a little fire in the family. She spread a rumor that the grandfather stole from the company. I do not know what transpired, but in the end, my great-grandfather bought out all of the family and Jack bought out great-grandfather. The company was Jack and Karen's company now, and things went tits up pretty quickly. Seamstress quitted, bills were not paid, and Jack had to take a loan from great-grandfather. The family company was barely scraping by, and Karen left Jack because he could not provide for him. It became apparent that Jack could not make it work and was looking for a way out, and after a while, great-grandfather had seen enough and bought back the remnants of his company and sold it to a bigger company that wanted to expand. This made the wealth he amassed even bigger. He did set up a different banking account for his children and said that if someone was in need, they could take money from that account. He told Jack his cut was smaller as he was the reason he sold the company and that he was let down by the careless and how he ran the company into the ground. Jack was angry and told his father that he could have made it work if he had more time. It remained a sour point between the two of them. Things went well for a while, but Jack married a second time with a woman named Helen. Helen, like Karen, wanted her own business. Jack agreed and took money from the account in order to start Helen's company. The business was a little barbershop and ran pretty well. They were spending their money on luxury and did not save any of it. After a while, my grandmother got a call from her little brother Jack if he could store some good in her garage. My grandfather did not trust Jack and told him no, and grandmother did not agree, but they agreed to it. A few weeks later, Jack got caught for possession of stolen goods and drug smuggling. It wasn't a surprise, but nonetheless a letdown for my great-grandfather Hank. This time, he would not help Jack and told him that he would no longer stand behind him. After a few years, Jack got out and was again a divorced man. He married again and divorced another 3 times, and each time he gave these women a business and lived lavishly with new cars, big houses, and expensive vacations. He drained his money and robbed his emergency bank account dry. He loaned a lot of money from great-grandfather, and so on. In 2013, great-grandfather befell ill. It was clear that he wasn't going to make it, and took his final days in stride. At this time, Jack became very buddy-buddy and started to help great-grandfather sell some stuff. At some point, my grandmother sat down with her father and asked him where the money went for the sold stuff, and great-grandfather told her not to worry about it. He took care of it in his will. After his 95th birthday, he passed away, quiet and in peace. After her funeral, they all went to listen to the will of their father. All except Jack, who had given a power of attorney to my grandmother to sign the will in his place. All the children get their fair share, but at the end, the notary public tells them to sign the papers and inheritance is completely theirs. At some point, my grandma called my dad. She's inherited some collateral papers, all sorts of papers that stated that someone owed my great-grandfather money. My father said that she has to call a lawyer's office to get the money from these papers. A few days after this call to the lawyer's office, my grandmother gets a call from her brother. Why was she taking his money from the inheritance? My grandmother tells him she has inherited some collateral papers and that she wants to get the money from them. Jack was furious and told her that that was illegal. Jack was wrong. Great-grandfather had documented every penny his son had loaned from him, and constructed his will in such a way that the rest of the children could get a part of their money from their money drain on of a brother. Also, great-grandfather found out Jack stole from him. You see, Jack was putting the money he made from the sold stuff on his own banking account instead of giving it to his father. After this ordeal, Jack has not contacted my grandmother or his sisters. He has since then paid everything back and has never seen a penny from his inheritance. Great-grandfather has confided in a letter why he did this. He was done with his son. All the lying, the careless things he had done to his company, all the money he had blown and not taking any responsibility. He gave his final lesson to his son from the grave. You want to think you can threaten me with no consequences? Enjoy jail time. This is my first post ever made on here! And I have a few stories to tell, so if anyone's interested, you know where to find me. But here it is. I used to work at a gas station. Me being only 20 at the time, I needed a job since I was new to my area after moving from one state to another. And the job was good. The manager, she was awesome. She was the sweetest thing before she left. And the manager after was just as awesome before I moved to a new apartment. But the previous assistant manager when I started working there, let's call him Richard for obvious reasons. And let's call the first manager Angel, obviously not real name. Richard was known to be a very hostile, creepy ass when not around the manager, and made us try to do his load of work and blamed us for being lazy when we couldn't do it and our jobs fast enough. My coworkers and I had brought the situation up to the higher-ups numerous times, and as much as she wanted us to be heard, Angel couldn't do anything, and it came to a boiling point, 2 months down the line on my end. Little fact about me, I am timid, I am autistic, and I get very stressed when someone threatens me with my life. I get very, very sick to my core and lack of breathing if I deal with that, and I use that to my advantage. On the shift I was supposed to be working that day. I had asked my friend Cross, not real name, if I could borrow his speaker to listen to my music. My manager said as long as I can do my job behind the register, and Cross was okay with that. I can listen to my music, and I asked specifically if I can borrow it to take home for a couple days until my new speaker came in that I bought with the previous paycheck. Cross said that's okay, and the shift change happened, and Richard came in. He sees me listening to my music, and he asks me to play his music from his phone on Cross's speaker. I said no, the speaker's mine for the next couple days, and I don't want to be held responsible for any damage. He then whispers under his breath for me to hear, but for the cameras in the store to not pick up, "I have a knife, you know." And I basically in a single moment, and quickly too, came up with a way to end his bullshit. The revenge. I yelled at him loud enough to him so that the cameras can pick it up, knowing that he would have to say something to defend himself. Why are you threatening me with a knife? And I kinda had a mixture of fear, if he actually had one, and determination to make this man suffer for me and my coworkers' verbal abuse and sexual harassment for the past couple months. He backs away and said, "Hey, it was just a joke, chill out." And I knew I had to do something because at that point I said, "A joke, huh? Here is a good joke. Have fun working alone." I quit. I walked out, called my mother, who I lived with nearby, explained the situation in tears after the adrenaline and fear finished its end, and I then was told and called my manager to explain her to the situation. I then told her that I knew he had the knife on him because I saw a pocket knife in the office, and it was a custom one with his name on it. Me and my mom, after she picked me up and took me back to the store to talk with my manager, I wound up in a situation with the manager, the branch manager, and the district manager asking about what happened, and I explained it again, calmer now, in full, and they asked if I was okay. I told them, no, I have a guy who's been sexually harassing my other coworkers, verbally assaulting me, and the others try and threaten an autistic person who did nothing except say no to using a speaker, gets threatened with a knife. I do not feel safe with him around. They asked me about the speaker. I called Cross, and he confirmed I asked to borrow the speaker overnight, and backed me up with that the assistant manager has done in the past. And at that point, police were called. They checked the cameras and heard me yelling about the knife, and after a few months, I come to learn he got fired from his last job and arrested for them finding out he was in jail for threatening physical harm to a disabled person, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and unauthorized concealed weaponry. He wanted a speaker, he got a speaker, a few speakers on a podium, who put his ass in jail about a week after. Sorry for my formatting, I'm kinda new to this and I want a place to share some of the crazy stuff I've done. Edit. Kinda forgotten to add that the police had saw the video of me mentioning the knife. Edit 2, thank you to whoever gave me the reward. And with that, my friends, we've reached the end of today's video. I know the second story's wording and formatting got a little strange here and there, but the person did say that they had a disability, so I ask you to please be courteous and show respect. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.